Getting the proper burn down in no-till fields can be greatly affected by both the weather in the spring, but also the weather from the preceding fall. Because weather affects both weed populations and herbicide uptake, using the proper herbicides is crucial in achieving the proper burn down in no-till fields. We caught up with OSU Extension agronomist Mark Loux, who told us more.
Last fall was very dry, so we came into the end of the fall. A lot of weeds we might typically have, winter annuals that overwinter and are a problem in the spring, we really didn't have. So that generally makes burn down situations a little bit easier in the spring, and then we've got spring emerging weeds to deal with. The second part of that is sort of our weather coming into between now and sort of the end of April, when a lot of herbicides are applied and then we start to plant. And probably the biggest problem there typically is if we have very cold conditions, a spell of very cold conditions. All the herbicides that are applied, the foliar applied herbicides like glyphosate 2,4-D that are applied for control of emerged weeds, we start to lose some activity. The biggest challenge I think we face in no-till soybeans probably across the state of Ohio and surrounding states is control of glyphosate-resistant mare's tail in the spring. And there are two components there, making sure we burn down the mare's tail that's there and then getting residual control through early to mid-June when soybeans often canopy. And after that point they'll control the mare's tail that emerges fairly well. We have differences between crops in terms of how difficult it is to get burned down in no-till situations. Corn is just generally easier than it is in soybeans. We use a lot of atrazine. We have products like Lexar, Lumax, Corvus, just a number of herbicides. It's easy to use dicamba around the time of corn planting. So I would say we don't generally have a lot of issues with control of no-till weeds prior to planting in corn, whereas soybeans really the choices are fewer in terms of what will actually control the vegetation that's out there. You have to use the right rates and the right combinations to really get there. The difficulty of a burn down situation, especially in no-till soybeans, does vary depending on where you are in the state. And that's for a couple of reasons. Sort of they're weather related, they're weed population related. We have certain just weed species that are more prevalent in the south, for example, than they are in the north. The recommendations for burn down don't really vary that much. I mean, we still have sort of a core of about 3 or 4 different burn down options that really work, and if growers fail to use one of those, then they're going to have some problems.
OSU Extension has a weed control guide that's available for growers who are looking for more information. This guide is either available online or you can get a copy of it by contacting your local agent. For Comtech Digital Media, I'm John Rice.